Our first presentation today is a man that I'm very honored to call a personal friend. He has been to me a teacher, a friend, a mentor in learning about the Nautilus, as well as the amazing man Tom Sherman. He was very close friends with Tom Sherman, and it is an honor for me to introduce my friend Richard Allsmiller.
I go by Rich. Thank you all for coming. It's a great day to be in Anaheim today, and really glad to see so many smiling faces. Can anybody hear me? Jim, can you hear me? Do I need a mic?
No.
I never have in the past. I would also like to introduce two of my very best friends, William Babington from Florida. Happen without guys like this, and especially this tall guy here. He is Mr. Nautilus. If you've seen a model of the Nautilus, Scott Brodeen has either made it or been very, very instrumental in bringing the Nautilus models to anybody that wanted them. So my hat, if I had one, is off to you, Scott, for all of the incredible work that you've done. And Will and I have collaborated on a few projects. We aim to make a perfect Nautilus, not the Scott's art, don't get me wrong. But there are inaccuracies on the blueprints, which we're going to address a little today. And I'd also like to be able to tell you where some of the problems with the Nautilus, and there are problems, have come from. First off, Jules Verne's Nautilus was some 230 feet long. Harper Goff's Nautilus is 178 feet long, 26 feet wide. Unfortunately, when they designed the sets that went inside it, they made the sets 26 feet wide, the boat is 18 feet wide, excuse me. So you've always got a problem. In my opinion, you can't put the interior as you saw it in the film inside the sub without shrinking it. There's been people, including Tom, that have tried to add an extra deck in there. We're already cramped for space. We're not going to be able to put an extra deck in. So what I want to show you here is some concept drawings that were done by Harper Goff. And the layout is pretty much the same, both in plan and elevation. Oh, you're welcome to take pictures. I would request that nobody take close-up pictures. I've had real bad luck with giving people plans or items or anything like that, saying, please don't duplicate this. Not a one has not. So this was Harper's concept drawings, and these are part of the things that convinced Walt Disney to go with his design. Walt wanted to have a very sleek, kind of like, it would look like an albacore, which was one of the first nukes that was round and had the conical nose on it. And he actually produced one of his brother Roy's bearing cigar tubes. You know, they're aluminum. And somebody taped some masking tape fins on it, and Walt was saying, this is what our Nautilus is going to look like. And it seems like there's been many other people that have made movies where they've come up with something similar to that. To me, the design is magic. The first time I saw the Nautilus in profile, when they were approaching the island of Crespo, my wife, who isn't here, says, the movie tapped me on the shoulder and said, I'll be with you the rest of your life. Because it has. The passion has grown, both from knowing Tom Sherman, who was the ultimate modeler, an incredible person, an incredible friend. There's a day go by that I don't think of him, and I've been privileged to have on loan his entire collection. So, through Tom, who I met at Kitcraft in Studio City, I met Harper. And you talk about an incredible guy that can just tell spellbinding stories. He was it. Just magic to be in his presence. But he would tell this story that he was going to tell Walt Disney, you can't make the Nautilus look like these bearing cigar tubes. And you have to make it look believable in the 1860s. And you look at the contemporaries of what it was, there was a Spanish sub called the Actinio from 1864. There was the Hunley, and then people always think of the Monitor and the Merrimack/Virginia as submarines. Obviously they weren't, but there's definite influence here, which I'll get to. It had to be believable, so Harper came up with this incredible design, and Walt was still fighting him on it. So they're having this big meeting on the 3rd floor of the animation building. And the way Harper tells the story, and Harper was good at stories, he says, "Oh my God, Walt, people are going to be looking at your movie and they're going to say, in this big dramatic scene, we're supposed to be a submarine in the screen, we're going to see a Bering cigar tube fall in front, people are going to be shocked." Well, everybody in the room was howling, except Walt. Well, Mr. Goff, I'm sure you'll come up with a design we can all live with. So, you've read the stories, I don't need to repeat them, about what he came up with. But his original design, which has been in... his original design, and you're welcome to peruse the books later, looked like that. And you've seen the pictures, I'm sure. Oh, you are here. Hi. Thank you. This is Bruce Bushman holding it with a pair of dividers that have no reason for being there other than it looks nice. I always like to show this one picture. This is Harper and I asked him to autograph it. It's a Polaroid on the back, and he put, "Rich, keep the Nautilus faith alive. Keep dry. Harper Goff." This is my commission. I'm legal. I'm legit. He told me. But Tom and I made one major model that is still on display in one man's dream at the Disney MGM studio in Florida. And we made it up just for his Discovery Bay thing. And there's a lot of pictures in here that you're again welcome to peruse of the boat. We had a lot of fun with it. In the Discovery Bay thing, which you saw yesterday, it just surfaces at the end of the movie. And Tom was a fun guy. And after we shot it 6 times at 120 frames a second, we started playing with it at the pool. And we're pulling it around just to see what the bow wave looked like. Which was interesting. It had a very unique bow wave, exactly like you would have expected. But with Harper's design and the way it was executed, here's the elevation plan. There was an airlock next to the outfitting room that led to the diving chamber, which would have been spherical. Otherwise, you'd oil can the floor, so it was a little light on the engineering there. But that's why this got moved so far back. And when you try to make an interior model of the Nautilus, I don't think there's any way you can legitimately put the diving hatch where it's supposed to be. It really wants to come out just after the little spiral speed indicator. And the other curve you've been thrown is the plans for the rooms are 26 feet wide, the boat is 18 feet wide. And if you want to have the spiral staircase coming down from the wheelhouse and the after hatch behind the salon, you have to compress. And I've been doing interior work on Will's 7-foot model, which is 1/25.75. What it figures out to.
We did it according to Reddit.
We measured fines. Yeah, it's crazy. It makes the interior 1/34. Then it'll all fit. Sorry. But this was the, okay. This was the elevation. And Harper had 3 decks. This was what he called the navigation deck, which is the wheelhouse. The salon deck. And the fight that Kirk Douglas and Robert Wilkie have is in what was called the jackknife corridor. And those 2 doors on the front of the salon, one of them leads to the jackknife corridor. This one was never shown. But there's plenty of room around Nemo's cabin to have passageways on both sides. And then Aronnax's cabin and Landon Kinsey's bunk room was up forward like that. And then these other rooms weren't built, but the reason there's 2 doors in the back of the salon
around the organ is that this was going to have like a passageway here. The passageway actually got moved down one deck to where I put the pump room. I have to tell you, Tom put the pump room behind the after hatch, and it does fit. But Harper's original design had it below the salon. And then this was the bottom deck. He called it the utility deck, which had engine rooms, the cruise room, and then the airlock and the diving chamber, the outfitting room, and the atomic pile, which is why there was 2 scoops on the front of the sub on those 2 panels that come up from the bottom, I would say to cool whatever their power source was. But this is just elegant to me. The original tracing paper drawing of it is really, really fine. Just interesting layouts. The whole thing. This is something you've seen but you haven't seen. These are the full-size plans. They're 5.5 feet long. They're exactly 1/32 scale. And we've all dealt with some of the mistakes that are on it. Everybody wait.
Collision speed.
Wait. Again, they're full-size plans. The most glaring error, the side keels. Now, engineering-wise, they're not side keels. Harper called them side keels. The side keels on the thing, the hull, actually go on the plans that virtually everybody has seen to the top edge of the round shaft for the ram instead of to the center of it. So this was redrawn, and the alligator eyes on the original plans had this triangular section here, and it's really L-shaped or boomerang-shaped or arrowhead-shaped. And it got changed, and then it got changed also on the top view. What was never changed was the hatch, the 2 panels that slid, are shown with angular sides when they in fact were built straight. Another problem there is on it is section 50. What I had done, I was an engineer at Lockheed in Burbank, and maybe lunchtime they weren't using the computers a lot. Go in and play. And I measured from the center line to the top of the hull, and that was the only dimension I was interested in. There's 3.75, 3 3/4 inches between each section, although they're not exact on here. Some of them have slid. But I said, I'm going to take that as a cardinal dimension from the center line up to the top of the hull and include the upsweep to the bow from what would be section 75 into it. And we knew that each one of the sections was a perfect decagon. Now, Bill, when he made his, I'm sure encountered some problems with section 50. And anybody else that's made one, Scott and Jim, the problem with section 50. But anyhow, we remade the thing so that it was right, and then we took this wonderful system that was not being used and made flat panel development of all of these chine panels. Chines are anything that comes to a point, and it's the ridge. So we made flat panel development so that we could make a perfect hull. And anytime I was involved with a model that Tom made, the only model in history that Tom let anybody help him on was this 11-foot one, because it was just too big a task. And I had, at that point, what I felt was the perfect wheelhouse, with the correct dimensions on it and the correct details that went on it. And anyhow, when Tom would make them, I would make him plans for the size boat he was making, and then we'd shrink down these 6 different shine panels, and he could make them real quickly. And he did that when he did his 33-inch sub when he made the 42 castings of it. But what I want you to see is if you're going to put the after hatch here, and we all know it goes there, and the spiral staircase definitely descended out of the wheelhouse into the chart room, and then you're led to assume that it went down into the outfitting room. By the time you get the outfitting room here, the diving chamber here, the hatch is not here. And I don't know any way you can legitimately put the hatch coming out correctly here without adding an extra deck or saying you've got an auxiliary staircase that went down underneath the fountain in the salon. People have made up beautiful drawings with it. I'm sorry I didn't buy it. I got the thing where you take this. These are the sections and a half bottom. And when you go back and look at it, at section 50, it's not right. It's very ambiguous where the exact center point of it is. So, I should be looking like that. We roll the papers. Over. Oh, I'm sorry. So the first thing I did was put each section, you can see them, they're numbered, with the side of the hull on there. And when you do this, you can make a sub, thanks Bill, that it comes out right. With all apologies to Fred Stews. He did a wonderful job on it. In case you've ever wondered why the sub has those 2 glaring errors, which is where the side keel goes and the alligator eyes go. They needed, because everything was needed yesterday when they were doing this, they needed to photograph it for a prospectus book. And the book is pretty rare, but it's called a preview. And the plans are in there, and they pulled them off Mr. Stews' board and photographed them, reduced them, did that, and then they gave them back to Fred. And he said, well, okay, we got to change these things. And another thing about studio blueprints, it was amazing that this movie was so detailed on blueprints. There's over 800 blueprints that were used to make the novels and the sets. But it wasn't like when we made airplanes at Lockheed, where we had a blueprint and we made a part to the blueprint, and then it went to an inspection department, and inspection says, okay, I've seen the part and I've seen the blueprint, how come your part doesn't look like the blueprint? That never happened at any studio. These were just tools to accomplish making the 11-foot model. And the 11-foot model is magnificent. It still is in tremendous shape in Florida. And anybody that goes to Living Seas at Epcot, you can walk right up to the barrier. An industrious person may not get beyond the barrier. I mean, may not stop at the barrier. And they actually may go take rubbings of different pieces of it. Maybe dimensions with calipers. You know, you got something that when you're done, you say, gosh, that must be the way they built that. But it gives you time to look at it and see the beauty of the construction of it. And this is something else I'll get to in a second. But I'll probably need this at some point. Oh, yeah. These are the latest ones, just taken last May. Anyhow, I wanted everybody to see that there are full-size blueprints. They're as rare as hen's teeth. These are the blueprints that are on the DVD. And they do exist at full size. The ones that everybody has seen in Scale Modeler magazine were made off of the photographs that were made of the blueprints before Fred had finished them. And Tom put those in the May 1974 issue of Scale Modeler magazine, and that's what everybody has used ever since, uncorrected. So that's partially corrected blueprints. Yeah, I think I'm done with that, so I'm going to have you guys one at a time. I think we're trying to do it too slow. Anybody that wishes to is more than welcome to look at these today. Now, because I was good friends with Tom Sherman for 25 years, and my son, Tom, was friends with him, I have felt, or I would like to tell anybody that would listen, and I would imagine all of you would like to listen, anything I can about Tom. So I made up some posters, which you're welcome to look at. I would like you to look at. And this is kind of Tom in the early years. This picture is very influential in two people's lives, because the gentleman that took this was his brother Roland, who's sitting right there. And the picture is Tom. And at that moment, Roland knew he wanted to be a photographer.
Tom at 16.
Tom at 16. Roland knew he wanted to be a photographer. Roland has won a Grammy for his work as a photographer. Took the picture of Bob Dylan that was backlit for the album cover. And Roland took that. It was the outstanding recording photograph of the year. And you don't know many Grammy award-winning photographers. I love the picture. This was Tom's first cutaway. And I used to tease Tom an awful lot. The rakers on this Nautilus are golf tees. Tom was a master at finding things that would work in the most unusual places. And we go through Toys R Us to buy Nernies. And Tom had the most incredible Nernie box. And they're just little detailed pieces that come off of toys that can be used in other places. But Tom said, well, the shape of it looks like a golf tee, so that's what it was. So that was the standard running joke with Tom and I when we made the 11-foot one. I said, where are we going to get golf tees that big? But the early shots of Tom, of these two, were taken when he was 16. When he first came to Hollywood, he lived in a place that could only be described as magic. I think elves lived in it before him, or leprechauns. He got bulldozed right behind KTTV. They tore down a house and put up a parking lot, really. But this was the house, or the apartment. And the centerpiece here was Tom's submarine apartment, which you've all heard about, but maybe never seen pictures. Well, there's some pictures in here of Tom's submarine apartment that I'd like you to take a look at. And that was the centerpiece here. This at one time in the 20s was a stable. I think this was the tack room and the feed room. And probably even the hay went in on the top, and then these were the stables. And this was Tom's workshop. And it was just a big open room. And Tom had a unique ability to be around me, at least, and really electrify me. I could be tired. And Lockheed at the time was working 7 days a week and sometimes 12 and 14 hours a day. And Tom would call me, Rich, come on, we've got a project. So I would go over and I'd be dead tired, ready to fall asleep, and all of a sudden I'm, okay, let's go. And he had that ability with many, many people. And true artists have that electricity around them. Some of these are early models of Tom's, which unfortunately have gone to other hands. The first thing he made when he came to Hollywood after he met Harper was a replacement for Harper Goff's Nautilus, which disappeared. It disappeared even before the movie was finished. It has never resurfaced any place. It could have been trashed. But he made this one for Harper before he made the 5.5-foot model, which we all saw in the Scale Modeler magazines. And that model is the same size as Bill's and Jim's in size. And it's in Imagineering with his interior cutaway model. But here it is when he's under construction with it. The top two drawings were Tom's earliest attempts, that's from 1958, of explaining the interior. This one's interesting because Tom's trying to fit everything in and he's added an extra deck, which didn't work. Tom worked on Bob Burns' Time Machine. It was in Tom's garage, which was around the corner here at Mr. McCready's house. And we moved this in my father-in-law's Chevy pickup truck through Hollywood. Here we are on the back of a pickup truck with the Time Machine. It was a unique experience. But anyhow, Tom made incredible napkin sketches. Here's Mr. Ray Bradbury holding one of Tom's models on Ray's TV show. There was always the Nautilus model. That is the Nautilus model from the TV show. And then Tom did work for Imagineering, and one of the ones that I really loved the most was in the old, which has now been torn out, Imagination Pavilion. As you're on the car following Figment and Dreamfinder, you went by the Imaginometer, which stored dreams, and it was half full, no, halfway, almost empty and empty. And Tom had these great little hands that always did it. And you can see the influence of the Nautilus there on the Imaginometer with the gauges and the cable tube well and all. Anyhow, please take a look at these at your convenience. I'll have them out. We've all heard about Tom's cutaway model. Here are photographs of it.
Rich, isn't that a model on the screen right now behind you?
Yes, same one. This was scanned from a 4x5 transparency. These are 3 different sets of photographs in 3 different lights, and they really showed up some of the rooms really well. And this model is an absolute jewel to look at.
Where is it?
In Imagineering. Right outside Tony Baxter's office. Tony spoke to us yesterday. It's being well cared for, but unfortunately, nobody can get in to see it. But take a look at it, and see it. This one is just kind of a paste together. Tom and I used to put on shows, and this meeting that we're having this weekend is an offshoot of the shows that Tom and I used to put on, mostly at Paula's My House. We did one in 77. We did a pretty good sized one in 79. Then there was a lapse. And this was the invitation to the one we did in 85. It was at Coast Special Effects. We had 19 models there that day. Wow. Various sizes. And on the back wall, we had our 11-foot model that was hanging. And then this is when Tom and I did the, when I say Tom and I, it was mostly Tom. I'm not going to try to say, it was Tom. But I helped putting on these exhibitions, and I think this was either at NFFC or the old Mouse Club, but it's the cutaway with different props. This is the 11-foot. And Tom did this in an evening, recreation of Peter Ellenshaw's Vulcanian thing. But here's Tony and Tom, and this is Harper's replacement model, with Harper holding it. And anybody that says Tom Sherman doesn't have one picture of him smiling, he's smiling here. It was a rare moment, but he did. And then in '92, Disney Studios had restored the League's print. And I took one of the 1955 press books I had and tore the cover off. And I just asked anybody who was there to autograph it. Harper Goff, Peter Ellenshaw, Gloria Paul. She was the girl at the beginning of the movie that had arthritis in both hands. And Tony Baxter, John Hinch, Ray Bradbury, Richard Fleischer, Emile Curie, Elmo Williams, Warren Hamilton, and Bob Cook, who did sound. Anyhow, it's a treasure of mine. Please take a look at that whenever you can in the back. That's probably good. I worked out for my own fun what each section of the sub would be like. And I've since revised some of this, but I thought I'd bring along the ones that were more finished than the ones that I revised. Section 40 had Nemo's cabin. I liked the power supply room underneath it. That would have been away from the crew, and it would have been in the front where they had high pressure water going by the scoops rather than water that went by the hull that wouldn't pick up as well. The outfitting room, the chart room, and the wheelhouse, that's a gimme on section 50. Section 60 would be the door into the diving chamber in the back end of the chart room. Section 80, the pump room does fit underneath the salon. I've since redrawn this thing and it still fits, but it's a little more scale. And then section 90 would have been the aft corridor. And just been some of my dimension books. If you ever go through Disneyland, if you get a window in Disneyland, like on Main Street or any place else, you've arrived. Harper Golf designed the Jungle Cruise, and we even have skippers from the Jungle Cruise in attendance. But he's the only one in front of Adventureland that has a window. And it's above the bazaar. It's not lit at night. I offered to pay, but they wouldn't. But Harper also played banjo in the original Firehouse 5+2. But that's Harper's window. So take a look. You doff your hat as you go by. All of that. The Nautilus can be radio controlled. And you'll never see the pictures, but this is a 5.5-foot Nautilus that a gentleman named Dan Catcher, who lives in British Columbia, made. It has since been sold and dismantled. It's in a museum. But this had a working ballast tank. And I don't know whether you got to play any of the...
We saw it last time.
Okay, that was Dan Catcher's boat that moved away from the dock slowly and then just drop dive in thing. And then it was underwater when, I hope you saw it, running around. But Dan is a master modeler for that kind of stuff. And then there's all kinds of different designs for the interior radio control submarines. And don't be afraid of this. This is something Bill has made one. Jim has sold boats that were going to be radio controlled. You can buy watertight cylinders or you can make your own.
Alpha.
Somebody say something?
Alpha.
I'm sorry.
Alpha.
It's an Alpha, yeah. This is from about 10 years ago, but the technology is about the same. These are just different ones from Deep Sea Designs. And this one I just got out, and I think I'm really intrigued by it because it is a system that does not rely on any kind of compressed gas. It just restores gas inside the boat and pumps it out to let water back in.
Rich, what do you think of the Angle Nautilus?
What do I think of the Angle Nautilus? I was actually an observer on the construction of it. And I don't consider myself any kind of expert on radio control subs because, quite frankly, the boat I'm building isn't that far along yet. But the guts of it are here. There's 2 servos, some loose parts. Thank you, sir. That was a heat sink. And I came across this really nifty motor. It's made by Astro in Venice, California. Years ago, there was a solar-powered glider that had an enormous prop on the back, and it was solar-powered and had these panels on the tops of the wings. And I don't know if you ever saw any video of it, but it moved very slowly and across the English Channel from France to England on solar power. The motor that was turning that prop is that same motor. Not this exact motor, but it was no bigger than that. It's got cobalt magnets and skewed armature and has enormous torque. When I was working, I took it into the electricians to have them do draw tests on it, and they came out with their eyes bugged, and they said, we've never seen a motor that had this kind of power. But this will power my 7-foot Nautilus. I didn't bring the propeller. It's 5 1/4 inches. They're made in England. It's not exactly scale, but it's got square tips on it. It's really part of a quart nozzle prop. But this is relatively easy to make. If you're going to go to compressed gas. These are commercially available pieces here. It can be mounted on top of a ballast tank. This is a clippered valve, which you can buy from ships and things. Standard Schrader tire valves to put Freon in this thing to blow your ballast if you want to go that way. And then a vent that you mount up on top that's solenoid actuated. When you would pick up this thing, it would let water come in the bottom of your ballast tank, fill up your ballast tank, make your boat heavier than water, and you would drop down. To surface, this would close again, and you would vent the Freon that's in this back into the ballast tank through this nozzle up here, and it would drive the air in from the top and the water out from the bottom, and your boat would come back up, the boat says. I made my own because I wanted a little bit bigger, and this is just copper tubing put together. Now, I have something that I really want to share. I'm so excited about this, I can hardly contain myself. Friday, Roland Will went over and talked to Bob Burns.
What was significant about Friday, the day?
Oh, it was Tom's birthday. 7/11. I always celebrate. We always have a drink to Tom. And Tom and I used to go and, well, I was always trying to find some girl that needed to be lucky for Tom. And we go to Beverly Garland's Holiday Inn on Vineland, which was right around the corner from his house, or Baroni's Pizza. And we had many times, but Tom posed a question to Harper. And I thought it was magnificent. Harper was a deep thinker, as well as a light thinker, but he had an incredible mind. And he said, had Nemo lived, and had he been able to persuade the world to disarm, and the world was at peace, and abundant power was available for anybody that wanted it through Nemo's secrets, what would Nemo have done with the rest of his life? Well, if you remember Nemo talking to Professor Aronnax, he says, the sea is everything. So I don't think he was going to get too far from the sea. So Harper came up with these ideas and sketches and said this would have been Nemo's next Nautilus. Some of you may have seen pictures of this. I doubt many people have seen it, but it is now back in family hands. And this is Tom's Nautilus 2. Unrestored. There was eight little mini subs that looked like seahorses. It would have been for the two-man crew. It would have been in each one. I'm not going to put it back on right now, but I'm going to tilt this with Scott's help. And this was Harper's dream of what Nemo would have cruised the seas in. You saw the model that Kevin Kidney and Jody Daly had yesterday from the Disney stores. It was 1/96th scale. This boat is also 1/96th scale. There's little berths here for a skiff on both sides. There are 2 anchors, 6 diving planes. And actually, he got some far enough to the front where they actually could have worked. These would only work if you were going like the Simon Lake kind of going underwater, where you use both of them and pull the boat down straight. It's easier to make the boat porpoise in for longer boats. But Harper came up with something that I thought was really ingenious. And it wasn't until yesterday that I really looked at this. There's no rudder on this boat. Got this thing back here, this big mysterious thing that obviously was some kind of propulsion thing. I would imagine Harper, because the design of this thing had this thing where it would vector, like the exhaust nozzle on an F-22 Raptor fighter, so that you would have directional use for a rudder this way, and then up and down for moving through the water, and it would have acted the same as diving planes would have. So I thought that was just brilliant, and it would have had whatever in here, there would have to be some kind of spinning thing, and if you look at SSN 21, which is the Seawolf submarine, it has a propulsor on the back that Harper would have had no idea what it looked like, because it's only been the last couple of years that pictures of it from the overall shape have been released. So I think this is a propulsor and a vectoring thrust nozzle on the back. And once you knew Harper, that wouldn't surprise you that he would come up with things like that. Anyhow, please take a look at this. It is delicate.
Let
It's
me
18
give
years
Bob
old.
Burns credit for keeping it intact for us.
I would give Bob Burns credit for keeping it intact. I would give him more credit for releasing it to the family,
Exactly.
because it wasn't being displayed to as many people even as is in the room. But I'll stick it on a table in the back.
As giant golf tees.
Giant what?
Golf tees.
Oh. God, thank you for noticing. I don't really have anything else to present. If anybody has any questions that you think I could help answer, I would be glad to take them. Wayne?
And it goes in reverse, as you see right now.
The diving planes on the side of the Nautilus are divided up into 3 planes. The largest one in the back and 2 in the front are smaller. Have you ever done an analysis of the meaning of that?
They're really decorative. They don't affect the boat, because I've had a running 5.5 foot. They're not big enough to do anything, and they're too close to the center. But I would imagine Harper was thinking that he could pull the boat under, either using the diving plane going this way or both. And the smaller one on the front, I'd imagine, is a trim plane. If you look at the point of axis on it, it more goes this way, where it has a larger piece that hangs off the back. And I think it could have been used as a trim plane. Bill, have you ever had any success pulling your boat under with just diving planes? Somebody asked a while ago what I thought of the Angle Nautilus, and I totally sidestepped that. I looked at it, and again, I don't claim to be an RC sub expert.
They're great dive frames.
Dive brace, yeah. As soon as I saw the Angle kit, I said, there's going to be a problem here. If you ever tried to service it, it has these incredible ballast tanks in there that are gear driven and piston and all of this. Really great built-in safety switches. But once they were in there, you couldn't service the boat at all. And the first thing I said to Jim and Scott when they were building it, you've got to make this accessible. Number one, you got to get them in and out if you want to get at the motor, because the motor wasn't exactly a Cracker Jack assembly, but it worked. The gearbox on the back was fabricated, and it was open gears, which tend to spray oil all over the inside of the boat. I found. So I suggested, and Jim followed it, that if you opened up that top before you put it on, if you could service the boat, all the electronics, and sure enough, once they got started on this, they had to get in and service the electronics and the motor. So if you're going to buy an Angle boat, and I wouldn't say not to, because it's an affordable, great size, 5 feet boat, but look at Jim's website and don't listen to Angle's response to it.
The greatest difficulty you will have if anyone here gets an Angle boat in doing that, and something I didn't realize until I started cutting out the top section to widen the access port, is fiberglass into it is a steel frame. So if you get one and you're starting to cut a wider thing in the top and you're suddenly, what's wrong with it? There's a steel frame inside there. So if anyone does that, I thought I'd warn you right now, so just so you'd be prepared.
What was the collaborative effort between Harper and Fred?
Fred, who I met before he passed away, gave most of the credit for the diving suit to Harper. Fred and Harper were developing this diving suit, and it was quite involved. They went down to the old Miramar Hotel in Santa Monica to test it. But while Harper was busy doing that, if you look at the date on the prints, it's October 23rd of '53. And you look at the production schedules and what was going on, which Paul and Larry have, Harper was not intimately involved with the day-to-day operations. And I first noticed it when I looked at the housing that went around the salon that was for the iris mechanism. I said, everything on this boat is chiseled and angular due to the stealth fighter pride. And I said, how come it's all rounded? Oh, they were doing that when I was away. And that's what they did. And they weren't going to change it because it was, at that point, starting to be fabricated. So I think, and I hesitate saying this, but I think the real final design of the Nautilus, as you see it, is from Fred Stoops. And a friend of Tom's that I was introduced to worked with Fred at Warner Brothers. He passed away in '64. And he was a nut on, of all things, Civil War ironclads. You look at the wheelhouse of the Nautilus, sure got Civil War ironclad influence to me. And then everybody's heard the stories about the dorsal fin and the tail and the alligator eyes. So Harper got the ball rolling, and I think Fred took it and ran with it. That's just an opinion. And it borders on blasphemy, I know.
With the exception of Disneyland Paris, has anyone tried to build any full-scale interiors?
You're too young to have gone through the 20,000 Leagues exhibit at Disneyland.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
It was taken out in '66.
I have seen it at Paris, so it's nice.
Yeah. Well, that is Tom Sherman.
Right.
And I have a picture of some of the preliminary buildings, interior things on my patio when Tom brought them over and said, what do you think of this? And I gave my opinion. He said, okay, don't tell me anymore. He went with his own opinion. Yes?
Since you say the interior sets are wider than the exterior,
Yes.
has anyone thought about just scaling up the exterior so everything will fit in?
My opinion on that, that's something that I think everybody's thought of. We know how big the boat is. We've seen actors walking around on the deck. We've seen them fighting giant squids on the deck. We've seen the skiff go in and out of the berth on the back of the thing. We've seen Kirk Douglas up on top of the wheelhouse. We've seen people in the Sunset Squid fight walking along the deck around the wheelhouse, coming out of the forward hatch to go fight with the Sunset Squid. I think we all know how big the Nautilus is.
But not all the dimensions are the same. Like if you look at the aft hatch forward of the skiff, that's obviously been shortened in the exterior.
On the full-size deck set, they took out half a section between 100 and 110. So when you see the underwater shots of the 11-foot miniature, you know how big the wheelhouse is in relation to the rest of the sub. To me, you can't do too much more with making the hull bigger. It's just, because it's a submarine, it's got to be something that's pressure resistant, which would be the dectagon shape, or circular, like the Dukes are now. And it's just, if you come up with something, I'd really like to see it.
On the top of the wheelhouse, is that a hatch?
It was part of a thing called the camera obscura, before there was a window there. Originally wasn't going to be a window there, and in fact the original drawings don't have the dorsal fin on there. And the only reason the dorsal fin was added and the window was added is that Nemo could watch the guys at the beginning of the movie when he had them on the deck to be washed away. And they built the dorsal fin full scale. It was on the nuclear submarine, the World War II fleet submarine Redfish 396. It was mounted on the back. And Kirk Douglas is really Fred Zendar, if you look real close at the video of it. But that gave them something to hang on to. The boat was going to be in a flush thing down there. The hatch would have been flush. But because they went to the dorsal fin, it got raised. And then the window on the back the wheelhouse, all of a sudden they didn't need that little auxiliary hatch. You can fantasize that the auxiliary hatch could have been for opening up in case they had poisonous gases in the sub or something like that, or emergency ventilation. Something like that. It was originally called camera obscura, and it's on some of the plans.
Not to be rude, but we have to wrap right now. The next presentation comes
Okay,
in.
Rich, get off stage. Shut up.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I want to keep going. It's good. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Allsmiller. Right here. This is your certificate to say thank
Thanks.
you for taking time. Once again, folks, a big round of applause for Rich Allsmiller. The most generous person in sharing information on the Nautilus that I know, as well as life experiences with Tom and other people. Like I said, I cannot say enough on behalf of the man. He is a saint, and there's not much more I can say about this gentleman out here. And Rich has been a very large help in making this conference what it is.
Figured if it isn't exactly in the center of the sunny window, it's down a little bit.
What I did, just out of curiosity, and they're made for big lighting so base response took measurements of the areas like a ride of each plane, the distance of the centroid crazy, like the southern explosion of the world.
Is it too big? Oh, yeah. Exactly. It's all
planes together rather than opposite. Oh, yeah, right.
Because it isn't real long, really, in relation to the length of the ring. So, Dan about the two chains. His diving planes move. When you saw it yesterday, it's underwater. It currently runs under ballast tanks. Just without it? Yeah, you got that chair effect on it. When Jim got that angle video running, it's unaffected. Up and down, but diving planes. But it's strength, it's in my mind, the way he describes it. Wheelhouse, yeah, amazing. A lot of times you're going to make this platform. It's going to be really tight.
3 o'clock in the morning.
You're going to... It's okay, go ahead, sir.
Oh, I got married. I got married, but I should have known. You know, when I first went to his apartment, and he had to clear a little spot for me to sit in that huge class.
Small version of the a stairway platform, both sides.
8 years later.
When that's
You don't change.
so you could look out. Virtually, sailor in the 1860s was nothing for that kind of a thing. Look at the video of it, even just running. I'm going to put it on both my website and the sites too. I don't want somebody to come over my phone about it. Because I think I've come up with a solution for it.
Richie, that's too much.
What we're doing, I've always reached my RC7. It's trying to go for something plausible.
They never moved.
Yeah.
And you look at the original one.
Here it's just restricted by the breakers as far as the space available for this one and how far to place it from there. But to me, it was a big coincidence.
The alligator eyes, he walked out to the house. We're never
They're replacing gun force. Yeah.
and they asked him, why do you have the alligator?
Huge warehouse.
We always had it. Well, when I was doing this, stand up inside.
I used to have glasses like that. I still have like some, yeah. I look at pictures and go, oh my God, was that like an alligator? That, yeah, like a rich.
First top breaker.
Yeah.
Sticking out. And he gave us
And so, you know, it always is small.
I won't root at all, sir.
They're still want to work on it.
That's okay. I'm trying not to get in your way. That's it.
The law reads, unless they change it again here last year, that.
No, Will, I was just kidding. I'm going to take pictures. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you want to take a picture closer? It's going to be fixed that quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't want to have like leaning on the desk or something. Yeah, but you know, people lean, they don't develop purchase in their bag like that. Yeah, there's something else going on there. It's not quite the time like All right.
You shall not manufacture those which means nothing. As to fool the cook, average person, get a banana black and you just fool the average person. Hold that in your hand. They don't know what they're at. Oh, I mean, in broad day. They have an actual study in adults in an audience and have a man suddenly burst in with a banana painted black. And because they feel it quite clear, that this is what you would get. So you see for yourself. After
It's that initial shock response that people have to terrorism.
Yeah. And they asked the people to write down a description of the man.
Yeah.
Was this man armed? If he was armed, what was he carrying? And you got all kinds of
Waiting for Red Robin?
First time I saw the thing years ago. And I mean, it's so sad. They did it with several groups of people. And I mean, it's really evil. Well, anyway.
Years ago, I had the classic, like for instance in New Orleans Square, where they have more of the higher end collectibles and things. That just got phased out. It's gone.
They tried it. I mean, you have to give them credit for trying some of those to see
But
how.
that's the original Walt motion, and that's the kind of thing that needs to come back into not just the park, but I think the entire.
The actual, yeah, I just wandered in. I'm always. I think they're coming back out. Intrigued when I hear people sit over the plate and sort of admit that they want the old Disney back, which is great. Because in our age group, it's still kind of there, but in the younger age group, you hear it, it's wonderful. But thing, ideology of money, it's got to make their world rock, so to speak.
No, I actually had to make